Okay, so today we're going to talk about angle of elevation and angle of depression. So I want you to imagine that you have this dog here, and he's looking directly out at eye level, okay? So eye level, looking straight across. Every time he moves his head up, what is he doing with his chin? So his chin is going up as well. That angle that it creates between his eye level and now where his chin is, that is called your angle of elevation. So elevation is when you look straight out and then you're looking up. So it's that angle going upward. Where, let's say now we have a bird in a tree. So if I'm looking at that bird in the tree, his eye level is directly across. And then what happens when he starts looking down? It goes downward. So that angle right there, so eye level going down, that's called your angle of depression. Well, what if they're looking at each other now? So they both have an eye level going straight across. Now, if their eye levels are straight across, we can assume that they are both parallel lines, okay? So the bird's eye view and then the dog's eye view, those are both parallel lines. Eye level, and now the dog would look up, the bird would look down, and what does that create? You can see that Z, or like the formal name is alternate interior angles. So we can assume that the angle of elevation and the angle of depression are congruent because they are alternate interior angles. And there's that big Z that we always look for. So the lines are parallel, angle of elevation and depression are alternate interior angles. So that's important to remember. So jumping to our notes now, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at angle of elevation and angle of depression. So angle of elevation means you're going up. The angle of depression, you're going down. So what I want you to do is I want you to take a minute. I want you to label this triangle. Are we using sine, cosine, or tangent? Just to get your math mind working. After you're done with that, I want you to jump down to this second example. So the first one, if you wanted to know the answer, you should be using cosine because you have your opposite, or excuse me, you have your adjacent and your hypotenuse. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start using word problems and trig. So, example A, a boy standing on top of a school is looking down at a car at an angle of depression of 38 degrees. If the school is 45 feet tall, determine the distance between the car and the base of the school to the nearest tenth of a foot. So I always suggest draw this out. I know that we have a lot of artists, so I'm one of them. Watch this school building. Ah, beautiful. So here's this school building. A boy is on the roof. And he's looking down at a car over here. So, have a little car. Yes, this is a car. Best I can do. Okay. So, boy standing on top of the school is looking down at an angle of depression of 38 degrees. Well, angle of depression is talking about from his eyesight down. So, I'm just going to move this line up a little bit. So it's looking from his eyesight, going like this, downward. So this angle of depression is 38. Well, if that's 38, then what else do you know to be 38? It should be your angle of elevation then. So the angle of elevation, if I drew a line here now, is this angle, and that would be 38. So we saw from that PowerPoint that the angle of elevation and angle of depression is both 38. So in order to do trig, you need a right angle. Well, a school building isn't built on a slant, so I can assume this is a right angle right here. So it says the school is 45 feet tall. And it wants me to find the distance between the school and the car. So let's label our triangle then. Always across from your right angle is your hypotenuse. Here's the angle that I'm using, 38, so across from that is your opposite. And then next to that is your adjacent. So if I'm looking, I'll label my SOHCAHTOA. I notice that I only have side lengths on my opposite side and my adjacent side. So anything with an O or an A, I'm going to put a star next to. So here's an O, here's an O, here's an A, here's an A, which means I'm going to be using TOA. So that stands for tangent of your angle equals opposite over adjacent. So my angle was 38 degrees, so it's going to be tan 38 equals opposite, which was 45 feet, over your adjacent, which is x. So now I have a whole number equal to a fraction. When I do that, remember we put this over 1. When we put it over 1, we're able to cross multiply now. So tangent 38 times x would be x tan 38. 45 times 1 is just 45. Now since it's x times tangent, you have to divide by tangent to get x alone. So I divide by tangent here, divide by tan 38. So I get x equals, now in your calculator you're going to do 45 divided by, remember to put your tangent in parentheses, and I get 57.59737, and so on. So it asks me to round to the nearest tenth of a foot. So tenth is the first decimal spot. This one right here, well, since this is 9, that means that one's going to go up 1. So it's going to be 57.6 feet. So what I want you to do is I want you to try the rest of your word problems on this sheet. I suggest you draw it out like we just did for this example. Sometimes they'll give it to you. So sometimes they'll give you a picture. If not, though, you have to draw it out, and that's the only way you're going to know what you're solving for.